Hello, friends and enemies and neutral parties. Okay. This is the 10th. This is the last episode of these Columbia Chronicles. And you know what? I'm okay with that name. I wasn't sure for 9 episodes. This one, I'm going to keep it. Okay. So look, where are we now? We are the fall semester of 24. So it's technically my 4th semester. Dean's list every semester, dude. How did he do it? We don't know. All right. So I couldn't wait for summer to be over. I wanted to get back in the game. So, and I had a ton of road work coming up, which was great. I was on tour with Nick Swartzen a bunch, and man, it was so fun, and it was just so needed too. Like I was able to just create this balance of classes Monday through Wednesday and then Thursday through Sunday on the road, and then finding the ways to just get the homework done and studying and just and be able to perform well and just be present, there. And all the while I hadn't told him I was in school. I had this, and this goes back to earlier in the first few episodes, not telling my friends and certain people. And I felt bad for not telling him, but then, I don't know. I told him that when I eventually did tell him on that near the end of that semester. I just thought I didn't want to have the perception that was getting in the way of me being present. We're doing shows, I'm doing well, and we're hanging out and stuff, and we did a ton of driving. It was instead of flying to a lot of these cities because they were so close to each other, and we're doing one night shows in theaters, so it was easier to drive instead of just take these connecting flights sometimes, where the actual total travel time is longer than just getting in a car and driving 4 hours to the next city, which meant less time to actually be able to sit on a plane and study and focus, or get to the city early and sit in the hotel room and study and focus. But I was like, you know what? This is it. This is what it is. I have no choice. I have to do this, and I'm gonna be present while I'm there. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna drive all day. It's gonna be great. We're gonna listen to music. We're gonna talk. We're gonna do these shows. They're gonna be fun, and then I'll just study at the end of the night. I'll get up super early in the morning and get it done there. I'm not having these two things conflict, and I know, he's the nicest, most generous dude. He's a good friend, and I just should have told him before. It was my own insecurity, and I ended up telling him, I can't remember what state. We were probably driving to Pittsburgh or something, and I was just like, hey man, I haven't really told many people this. I've just been starting to, but I told him the whole story that I've been talking about for the last 9 episodes, which and he was just like, get the hell out of here. But I didn't tell him I was in my 2nd year, so where he was like, yeah man, wouldn't have noticed, and no, I haven't felt any difference. Everything has been great. And I was like, okay, good, because this has been year 2 of it, and it just for me was holding that in, and I think just showing without question that I can do both of these things. I can be career minded and responsible and get the job done, and also be in school and be responsible and get the job done there. And at that point I'd proven it to myself, and there was no 2 ways about it at that point. So, and then I said I was sorry for not telling you before, because I felt bad. It just feels weird when you're hiding things from your friends and stuff. So and he was super happy for me, and he was he's such a good friend of mine, and I'm just happy he was happy for me. So, and then he was like, yeah, man, like, as we're still going to be on the road, and we're still going to, do stuff. And then that's been going on up until right now in the recording of this. Like, we're in spring, and we're doing a bunch of dates together, and it's just been the best. And I just feel so fulfilled in all on both sides, And so anyway, back to the beginning of fall. So yeah, I had hard classes. I had Intro to Cognitive Science, which is how the mind works, not from like a psychological perspective, from like a neuroscience angle, a little bit of psychology, but also linguistics and also philosophy. And it was super hard. It was very sciencey, and I took it because I was like, I don't know much about this, and it feels difficult, and it's kind of scary. So I'm diving in. I'm doing it. And then I took Contemporary Western Civilizations. If you saw me post that photo of here's all the books I read, especially just the study of Western philosophy, from the like Socrates to the present, it's a year-long class. So that picture on my Instagram that's the first semester of books, and I read all those sons of bitches, and fuck, did it feel good, man. And just so many of those books over the years. You know how you have that list of books where you're like, I'm going to read that. All I have to do is just get through rewatching The Wire for the 6th time. Then I'll read Plato's Republic. That's the order of importance, obviously. Or you know what I need to do? I need to watch this same playlist of Norm Macdonald Weekend Update clips for the 480th time. And then I'll read Aristotle's his book on ethics, Nicomachean. I don't even know if there's a way to pronounce that. That's like official, which I think my professor said. But anyway, great book on ethics. Great. I mean, like, these are the dudes that are the foundations of Western philosophical thought. Like, the things you read in there were written like 1,000+ years ago, and it's how we think now. And you hear people on podcasts and wherever, and in interviews and on Comedy Album, like, tackling these issues in ways where it's like, wow, these are insightful. It's like, no, they're not. 1,000 years ago, someone thought of this. And all we're doing is repackaging this same stuff. These are just the people that live on forever. I mean, they were living in like huts and caves and dwellings, and just all they did was read and think all day. And we get to sit here and learn about them. And that's what we did. That's the whole semester. And I just couldn't wait to crack open the next book and just get inside of these people's heads. And it just was one of those feelings of fulfillment where I'm like, and there are like a handful of things I actually had read before, but to really dive in and really understand how Socrates was thinking, how Plato and Aristotle and all these guys, and like Descartes, his book on the meditations, fascinating. That's the I think therefore I am guy, and just like what's everything around that. I finally got to sit down and to dive into that book and what he meant by all that, and then what else did I take? I took a writing workshop, and so that was one thing I was sort of debating. Well, let me talk about that in a minute. I took this other class called Symbolic Logic. Ouch! Ow! Owie in my brain. So that's what that class should be called, Owie in your brain, because that's what happens. It psychically hurts, and then it physically hurts because you're beating your head against a wall when you can't understand what's happening. It's sentential logic and predicate logic. Not even going to explain what that is. I now know, but that's going to be just people are falling asleep listening to this. or first order logic is another term for it. You're basically, it's just like turning logic and sentences and just like mathing them up. And you can break down arguments. You can just turn everything into either sentential components. This whole sentence is A, that whole sentence is B. What's the common thing? An and. Does it make sense? What's the truth value of these and or conditional statements, and so on. And then when you get further into that, now I'm explaining it. It's just like I said, I wouldn't. So anyway, it's incredibly hard, and it's like maybe a core requirement if you want to take it for either science or quantitative reasoning. So, and I was thinking I'm probably going to major in philosophy, and that would be one of the classes that would count for that major. And my philosophy teacher last year was like, "Oh no, you'll do great in it. Like, yeah, you don't really need much math background. You'll do great." Whew. After 3 or 4 weeks, I was convinced I was going to be the worst student in the history of taking that class. And there were weeks, man, where so first of all, I had to hire a tutor. That's how bad I was doing in that class. I mean, there were homework assignments where I'm like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. I'm just turning in nonsense. And I hired a tutor, and I was like, okay, here's my background. It's nothing, and I need help. And once a week, or a few times, it was like twice a week, we sat down and just cranked it out. Like, just here's this idea, here's this concept, and let's just go from the beginning. He probably was like, I'm talking to the stupidest person alive, but here we go. He was great too. He was one of the TAs for that class the year before. Oh, I can't credit that dude enough for getting me through that class. The hardest class I've taken at that school. And yeah, it was every week was an absolute nightmare. And there were some weeks, man. So the fourth class was a writing workshop, and I told myself when I first started there, I was like, do not major in creative writing. You've been essentially doing that your whole adult life. While there is still so much to learn always, I was there to learn other things. Now, I was like, I'll take a writing class here and there, but I want to get into subjects that will help my writing in other ways, as opposed to just taking a ton of writing and majoring in writing, I think it's all the other stuff that helps make you a better writer, because you can learn I have learned the mechanics of different types of writing. So what I did was I took a fiction writing workshop, because I hadn't really just practiced fiction writing, like screenplays and TV pilots and stuff. I've written those. I know my way around that. And then obviously stand up, and then nonfiction stuff. I know that, and still improving and all that, of course. But I was like, a fiction workshop. Yeah, I want to learn. I want to do that. And that was one day a week. That was Tuesday evenings. And it was great. Really lit a fire under me to just like write out some ideas and just turn in stories, and then you're critiquing other people's stories. So that was the fall semester. That's how it was laid out. 2 incredibly hard classes, one philosophy essentially class that was hard but also so fun, and then the writing class, so fun. And then weekends on the road, traveling, 4 to 6 or 7 hour drives from state to state a lot of the times. And there were so many weeks that just were a blur. I was barely getting things done. And I remember having to get up as early as I could on some days and fly out first thing in the morning a couple times. And landing in New York at LaGuardia once, and having to essentially just take an Uber straight to Symbolic Logic. That was my first class in the mornings, Monday and Wednesday. What a way to start the week, by the way. Starting the week in a class where the lectures might as well have been titled, Nick is a stupid idiot. Let's get started. And that's how the week started. So there would be weekends where I would walk off stage, some 2,000 seat theater, just feeling amazing, just killed, awesome show, so fun, just adrenaline. And then go out to eat, we're having a good time, I'm exhausted, but we're making each other laugh, and we're and then getting up at 3 a.m. and then flying back to New York, and then going straight to that class and just feeling like nothing, like I'm just less than nothing. I mean, what a psychological roller coaster that is. And I'll be honest, I loved it. I hated it in the moment, but when I would get through every week and I'm like, this is it. I feel like I'm doing both things, and I'm pulling it off. I'm doing it. And there was a level of like alive I hadn't felt in a while, because I just felt like I was saying at the beginning of these episodes, like just being on the road, just my brain, I was just feeling stagnant, and just like I was rotting on the inside in terms of creativity and just the direction all that was going. And now that I was doing both of these things, I was just I was just thinking more clearly. I was like excited to be awake, and no matter how early it was, I was just like, let's get life done. Let's go, And I don't know, I hope I was more pleasant to be around overall. I know that like this sort of thing is like hard on your partner in some ways, but I think I just would have been more miserable otherwise had I not started down this path. So I just saw where that was going, and it just made me really sad. So that was one of the impetuses for change. And even though there was a lot of stress, I just like at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month, at the end of the semester, I just felt like I was like participating in life again, in my own life. And if you're not happy, like just by yourself in your own mind, you're not going to be happy in relation to anything, whether it's your partner, whether it's your work, whether any of it. And I wanted to be that, and I just felt like I was getting back to that again. And yeah, those weeks where I was just looking down the barrel of just an impossible set of tasks, and let's say I was in this position that a lot of these younger kids are in, where you're living in a dorm, you're on campus, it's the walk to class is 3 minutes, like you have all this extra time to study, you don't have to go on the road and do all these shows and take care of your life in that sense. I probably would have done a little bit better in symbolic logic, but that's just not the way it goes. I'm living in this reality, and this is what I chose to do, and this is how I have to get through it. And that's part of the challenge. There was a challenge on top of the intellectual and academic challenge, and there was just nothing that was going to get in my way. I was gonna do it, even though at the same time I was like, I'm gonna fail this class. But you know what? I'm not gonna look back and be like, I didn't try my absolute hardest to fail this class. I ended up getting a C. I posted about this on my Patreon. So anyway, on my Patreon, I've been like actually doing current up-to-date stuff already on there. And I posted my grades and stuff. And I was talking about just how hard it was on there. And like, just doing videos on campus and stuff. And, but yeah, I mean, it was so challenging. And that semester, that last one, which just ended in December, flew by. I mean, that's how these semesters start. Like, it's like the first week or two, you're still shopping classes. Do I want this? Do I want to, drop this, add that, blah, blah, blah. And then your schedule gets settled by the end of week 2. And then blink, it's midterms. Blink, finals are coming up. Blink, it's Christmas. Blink, what am I doing for spring? Blink, we're in week 4 of spring, or week 3 right now. But day to day, there's a level of like, scheduling and focus and sleep, and just it's a balancing act that I've gotten better at this second year. It allowed me to stack my schedule to have to on Mondays and Wednesdays with that Tuesday evening class, and then realize like I got to get this much done by Wednesday before I fly to wherever on Thursday, and then just bounce around, to these different cities and states, and then find those periods of time to study, and then have enough ready to be, to get through that week, and then find those, like all of Tuesday, for example, I would just be like, I had a discussion section for symbolic logic in the morning, and then I would just all day be either catching up on things or just preparing for that weekend ahead, where I knew I wouldn't have just stretches of hours, to work uninterrupted. And in that sense, it was, I wouldn't say easier, but easier to structure. The structure was sort of there. I kind of knew from that first year, like, here's how I should do this. And I brought that into the spring. So I couldn't stack my schedule Monday, Wednesday. I wanted to again, but it was really hard because just like all those classes in a row, back to back to back. But honestly, the classes I needed, I couldn't do it to where it was like either Tuesday, Thursday, or just Monday, Wednesday. So I had to do like, 4 again. But I know that I can miss some classes and be fine because I know what that looks like now. And all these classes, you have a couple of, they don't care if you're gone attendances, and it doesn't go against the grade. And then a lot of the slideshow lectures are posted, and again, that's like that's a lot of other adults in school. They do the same. They'll just miss a class or two because they're like, well, I had work. I had to miss it, but you make up for it, and you get it done. And that's what I'm going to do. So this will be slightly different again than the first few semesters. And we're in week 3 of spring 25. And that's literally right now. We're now in the present. And right now it's like the day this will come out Thursday. Okay. So this is the week 3. I am in part 2 of Contemporary Western Civilizations, still loving it. We just did Immanuel Kant, or Kant, however you say it. I've heard both. And then Bentham, first utilitarian. And then we're going to get into some American political stuff. Thomas Paine, Common Sense. We're going to look at the Declaration of the Constitution. I know that stuff already a little bit, so that'll be a little less workload. And then I'm in, why don't I remember my schedule? It's literally happening right now. And, music humanities. So great, masterpieces in Western music. It's like the music equivalent of that, masterpieces of like, Western philosophy or whatever. So from the Middle Ages to the present, that's a semester long class. So far, so okay. I don't know. We're just listening to Gregorian chant and like some medieval. I'm ready to move further into the Renaissance and beyond, because let's go. This is boring. So, and then I'm taking Intro to Statistical Reasoning. That's a science requirement, but it's also an important in life requirement, because there are, and you see them a lot, you hear them a lot on podcasts, a lot of idiots quoting statistics that when you barely look into them, you realize they're skewed or wrong, or the studies were done in a way that only benefit your, what propaganda, misinformation, bullshit. So I want to be able to better understand quicker and articulate why these things are wrong, when they are wrong. So that'll be just an important in life one, just like symbolic logic. Like these are just good tools to have when faced with an increasingly stupid public, or just whatever, on an online sort of like deluge of idiocy. So, and what's the fourth class? It's an anthropology course called Rise of Civilization. It's sort of like the archaeology aspect of anthropology. Just going through the beginnings of the 5 major civilizations on Earth, and just sort of theories and sort of like artifacts, and piecing together how they kind of got started. Already so fascinating, but so much reading. Holy God. We're in week 3. I'm feeling all right about it so far. Things haven't started to get crazy. They will real soon. And got a bunch of road dates coming up. And I feel good about those. And I right now have to go answer some questions about some Renaissance music that I can barely listen to without feeling like I'm slipping into a coma. And then I have to read some stuff about Mesopotamia, and that I'm looking forward to. And then I got to start skimming through Thomas Paine's Common Sense. And I have statistics homework due on Thursday, which I'm 2/3 of the way through. Thought that was going to be super hard out of the gate, but much like symbolic logic, those first couple weeks, little misleading. You're like, oh, things are going to be fine, and then you get hit over the head with a Nick is an idiot sledgehammer. So that's what I think the professor's holding behind his hit, like a cartoon mallet where you can't see it, but then he pulls it out and you're like, how is that even hidden back there? It's too huge. That's what I'm waiting for in statistics. We'll see if it comes, but I'm prepared because I already got Columbia's got tutors, man. They're part of that tuition. And I signed up. I got boom, 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 week after week. I got some hopefully genius math student who I'm twice as old as, but he has like a background in this stuff. So I'm going to go, hey, help. And he's going to go, with what? And I'm going to go, everything. So fingers crossed. All right. So that was 10 of these. So I hope you listened to these. I hope you caught up. I hope you get on the Patreon. I hope you kind of follow this with me, because it's felt good to just come out with it, to talk about it, and sort of share in this whole fucking journey experience roller coaster thing. I feel so lucky and fortunate that I'm in this school that I got in. I still look around at the buildings and go, I can't believe I go here. I can't believe they let me in here. And yeah, so we'll go back to regularly scheduled ATNY podcast that'll have some to do with this and some to do with just other things. A venting module. Yeah, that's that. I appreciate all of you guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.